Fairy Tale. The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, a shoemaker lived with his wife behind his workshop. The shoemaker was a good man and he worked hard, but he was very poor. He did not have enough leather to make shoes. But if he did not make shoes, he and his wife would not have any food to eat. He had only enough leather to make one pair of shoes. He cut out the leather and then left it on the workbench. The shoemaker was very tired, so he thought of making shoes in the morning. The next morning, he found a pair of nicely finished shoes on his workbench. He took the shoes in his hands to look at them more closely, and he saw that they were so neatly made that there was not one bad stitch in them. It was just as if they were intended as a masterpiece. Soon after, a customer came into the shop, and as the shoes pleased him, he bought them for a good price. Now the shoemaker had enough money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That night, he cut out the leather, and the next morning he was about to set to work when he saw that the shoes were already made. There was no shortage of customers who wanted the shoes, and the shoemaker soon had enough to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. The following morning, he found the 4 pairs were made, and so it went on. Any leather that he cut out in the evening was finished by the morning. Soon, he was no longer poor, and he even became quite rich. Cutting out the leather as usual, the shoemaker wanted to know who was making all the beautiful shoes for them. He said to his wife, "Let's stay up tonight to see who is it that lends us his helping hand." So, that night, the shoemaker left some leather on his workbench as usual. Then, instead of going to bed, he and his wife hid behind the curtains. When it was midnight, 2 little elves came into the room, both without any clothes on, and sat down by the shoemaker's table. They took all the work which was cut out before them and began to stitch, sew, and hammer so skillfully and so quickly with their little fingers that the shoemaker could not turn away his eyes because he was so astonished. They did not stop until all was done and stood finished on the table, and then they ran away quickly. The shoemaker was astonished. The next morning the woman said, "The elves have made us rich, and we really must show that we are grateful for it. They have nothing on, and they must be cold. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will make them little shirts, coats, vests, and trousers, and knit both of them a pair of stockings. You can help too. Make them 2 little pairs of shoes." The man said, "I shall be very glad to do it." One night, when everything was ready, they laid their presents all together on the table. Then they hid themselves to see what the elves would do. At midnight, the little elves hopped up onto the workbench, wanting to get to work at once. But as they did not find any leather, but only the pretty little clothes, they were at first puzzled and then delighted. They got dressed so quickly, putting the pretty clothes on, and started singing. They were so happy. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the elves again. They both never had any problems again. All went well with him, and his business prospered. They lived happily ever after.